I am Kesten Rono, and you are here for day 16 of our exploration in A Course in Miracles. As always, thank you for being here, giving witness to this process and trying it on for yourself. If you've been here every day so far, congratulations. And if you're just joining, I hope you settle in. We're here to be uncomfortable. If we're uncomfortable, we do not understand, and we're here seeking some understanding, letting it take the shape that it needs to in its own timing. After all, we're practicing something, not just sharing something we already know. Hitting the ground running. Today's principle. Miracles are teaching devices for demonstrating it is as blessed to give as to receive. They simultaneously increase the strength of the giver and supply strength to the receiver. Giving and receiving gives strength to the giver and strength to the receiver. The first thing that comes to my mind is that miracles mean life and God is the giver of life. I was expecting to make a comment on something we already know, that miracles are the transfer, probably of love, they're expressions of love from some area or someone with an abundance to someone or somewhere with lack. However, I think it's really interesting that miracles mean life and God is the giver of life. God as the creator, prayer as the communication medium to the creator. God, being the creator, created us. And this, we could probably say, is a miracle. If the source of miracles is love, if what we're discovering here is an acceptance of the mask of our ego and its greatest attempt to help us feel safe, yet its tool is through the lens of fear, believing it is in combat with God when it need not feel such a way, that we can love our egos too. But if we're created at all, and we're created out of love, and we recognize here we are with life, and miracles mean life, and miracles' source is love, and God is the giver of life, then it stands to reason that God's strength only grows as he gives strength to us. Miracles are teaching devices for demonstrating it is as blessed to give as to receive. God received his own blessing in giving us life, in showing us love, in building us out of love, and building us into a realm of love. They simultaneously increase the strength of the giver and supply strength to the receiver. I don't know if they were designed that way, but I would say probably not. Because if we have conscious control, and maybe God even holds himself to the same standard, if we have conscious control over miracles, things may be misguided. And if we're discussing here some true vision, some truth, some through line of creation, some unconditional love that allows for all things, then we would hope, and we may even feel confident in guessing that there is no misguidance here, that God does not create anything without meaning. And we are assigning meaning to thoughts we think we have and images that we think we see. But as we discussed yesterday, this is not sight, this is image making. That was yesterday's exercise. If God is creating everything with meaning, and then we are allowed with our egos to apply fear on top of that, painting over his painting, muffling his voice, then the foundation of whatever true sight is, as we make peace with our fear, the foundation would be pure meaning, true meaning. So our life, our opportunity for living is the ability to see true sight, true meaning, whatever that is. For right now, it feels a little bit like language and ethereal. But do you feel yourself becoming stronger? Is that idea challenging right now? Do you feel yourself being stripped as you dive into your fears, as you release the hold that they have on the items and ideas around you? As we picture horrors and feel our hurts and their sources. Even though this book is telling us that, like miracles, it seems that one is not ever bigger than the other or harder than the other. They just are. And as we release this meaning, we find ourselves more present. And in the presence, we have access to true meaning, releasing meaning from the ego and entering with no idea what we're doing. We are still discovering the canvas that's underneath all the coloring that we have done, whether it's been beautiful or scary. It has been out of fear, believing that the canvas as we saw it in its overpowering light and its unknown did not provide the ego as designed its version of safety and security. And we're grateful to have this version of us that is trying to construct something that we can be safe, but we ironically find more safety in allowing that safety net to be cut away. And as we do so, we enter into the flow of miracles. And if we do it without conscious control, well, we're allowed to be selfish. So ironically, as we don't try to control things for ourselves to secure ourselves, we get these messages of blessings that in doing so, we actually grow stronger, that we think we have strength through control. And you probably can see that all around. But remember, these are sights that you are creating. It's not true sight. These are emotional charges related to these sources of these things, that these images that you are making. These emotional charges are of your creation, and the ones that I see and I feel are of my creation. That is the painting over God's painting. That is the voice over God's voice. And here we are, not needing to understand, and if we feel uncomfortable, we know we're doing the practice perfectly, especially if we allow a sense of ease. And as we release our control, which, if we just take it at face value without thinking too deeply, if we control a nation's money and we have access to it before someone else has access to it when it's created, and we do not allow them to exchange it for something of real value, then relatively speaking, over time, we have a greater amount of control. But it's an illusion. Something is being sold that we don't have. It's fake from the beginning. And the way out is, despite all of the pain that we feel as we play along, accepting some murky, less than transparent explanation. And even when we can look right at it, we choose sometimes not to believe it, that our energy is being mined through this analogy of money. And we're giving up our control regularly, just as time is passing as we attempt to save. That's a longer conversation, but there's a game of power happening, and this is one example. And if you're at the top, well, you believe that it is beneficial for you to continue because you can see according to some numbers that are, well, actually made up because you can make money out of thin air. Again, a longer conversation. But you can see the relative distribution is falling into favor of you, away from favor of other people. A moral conundrum for sure, but if we assumed that perspective, if that had been the history of our own lives and how we have come to find meaning in our egoic hold and how it is wrangling fear and it's creating safety for us, we would believe that that is strength. What could we not buy? And over time, we can buy more than someone else who doesn't have access the same way. Our strength would only be growing. But this book would be suggesting that we would be hardening ourselves inside of some bunker. And, well, just look at the Great Wall. Any wall can be sieged. A static defense that we think is strength. And paradoxically, as we are stripped away, the we I'm referring to being the ego, the lens from which we've been seeing life, as we allow it to be laid to rest, gratefully, with love, knowing that its biggest fear will be met, its own destruction. Of course, it's been trying to run from God, creating its own war by pushing in the other direction. But going through our fear, accepting our fear, forgiving our fear, loving our fear, allowing ourselves to give ourselves away to something else that is in lack, being fear. We have been healing. Miracles are healing after all. To give love is to receive love. Miracles are a beginning and an ending. Their source is love and their expression is love. A little bit of a mind trip, but we're entering into this flow. So how is it? The more that we peel ourselves away, the more that we give up control, the more that we recognize our fear, shame, depression, all versions of upsets, what our ego is naturally transferring everywhere that it goes, because that is the foundation upon which it is created and it clings to life. But we know miracles are life. The more that we empty ourselves, somehow we are becoming fuller. And I think that that is alluding to what is really going on here. Whatever perfect peace, perfect safety, true sight, true meaning, truth is, that gives us strength. And like a warrior, a true warrior, just because he has the capability to cause damage doesn't mean that he ever does. That there's a beauty in finding more strength and relaxing into it rather than using it for control and persecution. If anything, it's a defense of self against our old ideas that, of course, we still know. They cannot be destroyed. I don't think ego, well, maybe it's destroyed from the perspective that we take if we go all the way into ourselves in true sight. But perhaps we're able to remember this idea of past and time and fear. And perhaps that idea gives us even more appreciation and elation and ease and gratitude and energy for abundance and love to share it from this perspective of love. I don't know, but we're figuring it out. So let us feel very comfortable that in our discomfort, in our confusion, which is perfect because we are trying to find an unknowingness, releasing meaning of everything around us, because those are the thoughts that we think we see. Wiping away the paint that we put over God's canvas because we were scared of the unknown. Miracles allow us to be in the present, to release the past and find the future being the unknown. It is closing it around us, and where we thought we had to run from it or build something inside of it, we are being exposed to an idea that says, it's all you've ever needed, and that there's strength in the unknown, strength in release, strength in the process of miracles. That miracles themselves, remember, do not matter, but they are teaching devices, this says, for demonstrating that it is as blessed to give as it is to receive. And if this process is natural, habitual, involuntary, happening all the time, asking for our devotion, which would be all the time, then this threat of a lack of abundance is also an illusion. Of course you're abundant, participating in the cycle, the circle, the beginnings and endings of love and this transfer. And we know this because miracles violate the temporal order. They violate material physics. We don't lose anything at all when we give something away. When we give love, we receive love. When we give forgiveness, we find forgiveness. We have levity. We're clean. We're purified. There's genuine strength in giving, and there's nothing to fear by giving yourself away. If we allow our minds to enter into this new perspective, which is why we are here discussing this together, if we allow our minds to relax into a new way of seeing the world that very understandably the ego infiltrating each one of us would never be advertising to us. It would never say that perfect peace exists, that perfect safety exists. But that's what fear would say. You should be afraid. And when you look around and you read the news, do you see people saying how beautiful life is everywhere? Or do you see echoes of fear? Will you accept that those are ideas that you are creating? I will try. I am accepting. And I'm enjoying this entire thing as a process. Because whether I feel fatigued or confused, every single day I'm coming here and reading something for the sake of reading it and sharing it. Maybe to hear myself talk, replaying my own video to hear myself talk, coaching myself along this process of realizing that I've been in my head the whole time. And we are allowed to picture and we are allowed to feel into the unknown and announce that the basis of what we are and where we would like to return, just as miracles are beginnings and endings, the basis of what we are and where we want to return is love, not fear. And fear will scream and say, "Are you sure you don't want to wear me? You will die." And we remember that that is fear's own projection and its destiny. And so we greet it with peace and love. And we say, "You're welcome here." Because what would love be afraid of, and what would unconditional love say? You can have anything you want. You can even forget about me if you need to. And we're saying, we are curious about true sight. We are willing to accept, even if we do not understand, that everything that we see is of our design, not God's design. And we're curious about hearing his voice. Maybe one way that comes into your life is your intuition. Do you listen to your intuition? Have you ever honored your intuition? Do you have a single example where listening to your intuition, not overthinking something, but listening to whatever it is that, what is this? Why am I supposed to go left instead of right? Do you have a single example in your life where you've listened to your intuition and it has led you in a direction that you believe has been constructive or safe, or where you found more love or excitement? If that's true, I think it's worth noticing that black swan and realizing that at least sometimes our intuition is right. And perhaps giving into this intuition allows us to hear something bubbling up from below the cover of the ego, attempting to keep a lid on everything because it's scared of everything in the unknown, and the unknown could be anything. So it's trying to cover up everything. It's like playing whack-a-mole. And maybe little ideas of God are revealed, or as we learned last night, we may see the same items around us, but with an outline of light. And then we know we are very close to true sight. Again, no threat. If this idea feels ridiculous, set it aside. But let's keep practicing. And what if you saw it? And what if you never did? This is at least inviting us to say that when we give, we are supplied strength. And when we receive, willing to receive, we are supplied strength. Will you give yourself a gift of discovering ease and trying on the idea that your ego, which is part of you, has had a grip on your reality and has painted every single thing you see to provide you with images that mirror what it is and may be blocking true sight? When you are stressed, when you are fearful, when you are upset, do you believe that you are stronger than when you are at peace, well rested, and excited? Positively excited, you would say. I cannot imagine that you feel stronger in a state of fear than a state of love. So, can we just allow that to be true? That as we enter into love, which is requiring us to release our fear, giving us a new option of what we are and therefore what we can give, if we are becoming more of love rather than being painted by fear. And as we go around, whether you're actively giving something or giving off energy, whatever wake you're leaving behind you, you've seen someone storm out of a room. And I'm sure you've seen someone go where you just wish they would stay. It's true that we have feelings about ourselves and what is around us, and they feel differently, so it would seem. So would you give yourself a gift of releasing whatever the feeling of fear is in you and your upsets and its sources by saying, these are meaningless. I've created these. And if you're willing to therefore discover love on the other side of that, or realize that you are giving your fear love and forgiveness, you are actually in the process of subconsciously giving a miracle to yourself. If you are giving this opportunity to yourself, will you believe that you grow stronger, at least because it is your energy that you are giving yourself? So the weaker part of you, we would say, that lives in fear, is gaining the strength from the stronger part of you. And the stronger part of you that's giving it is actually the weaker part, right? Because it's the newer part. It's the one we know the least about, and yet we are still giving from there to here. So which is in lack? Because we know miracles flow from abundance to lack. So no matter which lens you want to wear, if you are able to give yourself this perspective, because what could be the harm in feeling fuller? Just by giving yourself this perspective, you become stronger. Miracles are teaching devices for demonstrating it is as blessed to give as to receive. They simultaneously increase the strength of the giver and supply strength to the receiver. Lesson 16. I have no neutral thoughts. You have no neutral thoughts. The idea for today is a beginning step in dispelling the belief that your thoughts have no effect, meaning our thoughts have an effect. Everything you see is the result of your thoughts. Everything you see is the result of your thoughts. There is no exception to this fact. Thoughts are not big or little, powerful or weak. Okay, remember, thoughts are miracles. Miracles are thoughts. We are thinking that we think we have thoughts, but true thoughts are miracles. And lesson 1 again said there is no such thing as a miracle that is bigger or harder than another. We learned that all upsets are the same. And here, there is no exception to the idea that everything we see is the result of our thoughts. So thoughts are not big or little, powerful or weak. So are all miracles equal? Well, miracles are expressions of love, and all love is expressed maximally. Sounds like we're just talking in circles about the same idea as we become more and more comfortable reaching understanding. Speaking of thoughts, they are merely true or false. So thoughts are not big or little, powerful or weak. They are merely true or false. Those that are true create their own likeness. Those that are false make theirs. So if we are in truth, in true sight, true thought, we are living in truth. We're creating more of what we are, what we see. If we are not in true sight, if we are separated from God, we live in a world that creates more of what it is: fear, false thoughts, illusions. There is no more self-contradictory concept than that of idle thoughts. What gives rise to the perception of a whole world can hardly be called idle. Every thought you have contributes to truth or to illusion. Either it extends the truth or it multiplies illusions. You can indeed multiply nothing, but you will not extend it by doing so. Powerful numbers are coming into play here. We were talking about fear and love being divergent paths, and trying also on an idea, at least I was, about seeing that if I live in fear and I came from love and I'm returning to love, that there is an angle where moving through that fear with love is one path. But here we're saying that it is one or the other for your thoughts. And I suppose that makes sense. You are either entering into the realm of fear and going deeper, or you are entering into the realm of love and going deeper. Every thought you have contributes to truth or to illusion. Illusions being the egoic idea of creating safety and control, which we are releasing, which comes from the past, and we believe it applies to our present. But that removes true presence, which is the prerequisite for sight, entering into nothingness. And nothingness itself is meaningless. And this is why we can accept meaninglessness in our thoughts and ideas. Thoughts either extend the truth or multiply illusions. Illusions are nothing. They have no meaning. Let's call them zero. They're nothing. I don't know if you're familiar with coding at all, but a 1 is a truthy value and a 0 is a falsy value. If false thoughts are a 0 and we attempt to multiply them by any number, the number that we receive on the other side is 0. Illusions and more and more and more illusions still create more illusions. They just create more nothingness, but not the nothingness as a prerequisite for true sight, it would seem. The nothingness as in what we are seeing is not real. True thoughts. Truth we'll call the one. And if we can just barely get there, and I guess suppose if we can repeat it, that's a doubling. Well, 2 times 1 is 2. So we're extending truth. At least that's how I read this. There is no more self-contradictory concept than that of idle thoughts. Every thought you have, including the decision, probably mostly the decision to accept this idea or not, dictates whether or not you are stepping into a false world of illusions or a true world with God. Besides your recognizing that thoughts are never idle, salvation, which was referred to in the previous lesson a couple days ago, besides recognizing that thoughts are never idle, salvation requires that you also recognize that every thought you have brings either peace or war, either love or fear. We live in a time of forever war, it seems like. There's always something to argue about, sometimes on very grand scales, that we are told are worth printing more money and making more war machines and killing more people. That's the opposite of the noble soldier, warrior. Every thought we have brings us either peace or war, love or fear. A neutral result is impossible because a neutral thought is impossible. There is such a temptation to dismiss fear thoughts as unimportant, trivial, and not worth bothering about, that it is essential, it is essential you recognize them all as equally destructive, but equally unreal. Okay, you have a negative thought, you want to be a positive person, have a great day, you're becoming very good at reframing, but the process by which you're reframing is dismissing the old thought. That's certainly how I started with reframing. Somebody cuts me off, and if I caught myself having a reaction or saying something to introduce the idea of reframing, I would say, when you want to be all jacked up, thank you for making me feel alive, is what I would say. Perhaps then I was dismissing my upsets. There is such a temptation to dismiss fear thoughts as unimportant, trivial, and not worth bothering about, that it is essential you recognize them as equally destructive, but equally unreal. Here again, we're applying equity to this idea. All thoughts, all upsets, all fear-based thoughts are equal. And equally unreal, they're all illusions, they're all zero, they're all false, and we can only be true or false in the thoughts that we are having. We will practice this idea in many forms before you really understand it, so you have permission to be uncomfortable in the unknown. In applying the idea for today, search your mind for a minute or so with eyes closed, and actively seek not to overlook any little thought that may tend to elude the search. This is quite difficult until you get used to it. You will find that it is still hard for you not to make artificial distinctions. Every thought that occurs to you, regardless of the qualities that you assign to it, is a suitable subject for applying today's idea. All right, we're not panning for gold thoughts. We're scooping up the sediment of the river, and that's what's in there. That's what we're scanning. We don't want to let little things fall through the crack. And it's okay if this is difficult, to notice all things. In the practice periods, first repeat the idea to yourself, and then as each one crosses your mind, hold it in awareness while you tell yourself, this thought about blank is not a neutral thought. That thought about blank is not a neutral thought. So for a minute, we'll scan our thoughts, allowing ourselves to believe I have no neutral thoughts. Try saying that, please. I have no neutral thoughts. I have no neutral thoughts. I have no neutral thoughts. We'll scan our mind and see whatever comes to mind. We'll hold that thought, big or small, as we see it, regardless of what charge it has. And we'll tell ourselves, this thought about this book is not a neutral thought. It doesn't seem here we're supposed to say it's positive or negative, true or false. We're accepting simply that it is not neutral. So before we were releasing meaning, and now we are saying that wherever we arrive on the other side of meaninglessness, into nothingness, we're accepting even more responsibility, like we talked about. Now we're being shown that from nothingness, at least as an exercise, when we have a thought, it can only fall into the bucket of love or fear. There's no such thing as neutral. It's weighted one way or the other. It's not talking about if we're assigning it, if it has its own assignment. We're just simply saying that it's not neutral. Will you try this on? As usual, use today's idea whenever you are aware of a particular thought that arouses uneasiness. Again, we're supposed to be being able to do these exercises with ease. So for finding uneasiness, we want to apply this idea. The following form is suggested for this purpose. This thought about my future is not a neutral thought because I have no neutral thoughts. Will you say this idea after me? This thought is not a neutral thought because I have no neutral thoughts. This thought is not a neutral thought because I have no neutral thoughts. I have no neutral thoughts. I have no neutral thoughts. This thought is not a neutral thought. That thought is not a neutral thought. This thought is not a neutral thought because I have no neutral thoughts. 4 or 5 practice periods are recommended if you find them relatively effortless. If strain is experienced, 3 will be enough. The length of the exercise period should also be reduced if there is discomfort. Okay, this is different. It's saying hit 3, even if you find strain. It's okay to reduce the consideration period less than 1 minute, but let's aim for 3. 3 times, especially if we discover uneasy thoughts. 3 times, up to 5 if we are comfortable. And again, our goal is to realize that we have no neutral thoughts. You have no neutral thoughts. That thought you are having right now about me or wherever else you are in your mind or this process, that thought is not a neutral thought because you have no neutral thoughts. So please try this exercise 3 to 5 times. Realize that there is strength in this process. If you are giving yourself away, you are receiving strength. And if you feel that you're receiving some kind of gift from this process, realize that you are receiving strength. These ideas are allowed to violate the rules and laws that keep us feeling like we must be in lack if we give more away. And yet we feel more and more and more depleted from this lens of the system. So may we feel full. May you feel full. May we accept another idea of releasing fear, accepting meaningless, and allowing God's voice through this text, at least, to try on ideas, even if we do not understand, and especially if we are uncomfortable, so that we may move closer and closer and closer in ease, knowing that we are being strengthened on our way to perfect peace and perfect safety, which all fear-based thinking that we are creating around us, all war-based thinking, all death, all hate, all fear, all these ideas, that realm, that side of yin and yang, would have us believe that it's impossible and will ramp up the fear, possibly ramp up the pain, however that's felt for you. Anything to get you to return to the habitual safety that ego is falsely representing. False, zero, untruth. We are on the quest for truth, abundance, truth, and love. And you're worthy of love and understanding. And you are powerful because in this process you grow stronger. Down the avenue of fear, in illusions, you grow weaker, believing you are stronger. You're abundant. You can do this anytime. You're never going to run out of energy giving yourself away from this lens because you only grow stronger. And if you are growing and you feel stronger, if there was something in your life that was in lack and when you give to it, it grows stronger, but possibly, relatively speaking, you are stronger than some other things because you're getting stronger, well, that's going to set you up for the habitual process, the natural process of miracles, because they flow from abundance to lack. But both parties gain love, both parties gain strength. You can only grow stronger. We are extending truth by participating in truth rather than thinking we are participating in strength, attempting to multiply more and more and more illusions by nothing. That's a lot of ways of saying, let's take it easy on ourselves through our uneasiness as we recognize that we are making up the world around us, even if that's challenging to stomach right now. Because I'm feeling fuller the more we go, and today is only day 16. I have no neutral thoughts. My thoughts about feeling miracles are not neutral thoughts because I have no neutral thoughts. I am Kesten Rono, and I again thank you for your patience and curiosity exploring these ideas with me. Please practice this one 3 to 5 times and enjoy yourself. Be well, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 17 of our exploration of A Course in Miracles.